What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and the most toxic black man on the internet. And I am black up in your face again with some more pro black commentary. So, just a big shout out to all the people out there who've had to deal with these terrible storms out here, whether it be, the hurricanes or, the other weather conditions that come with the hurricanes, like flooding or erosion or tornadoes, high winds, whatever. Like anything that you've had to deal with, whether like your power has gone out or your house has been destroyed, or maybe, your house is fine, but, all the municipalities and, your infrastructure in that area or that neighborhood is just down, or the roads are closed off or whatever. Just a big shout out to all you out there. I know it's not easy. My family came out good with this particular set of storms, but I've lived through this type of stuff before. When I lived in South Florida, I lived through hurricane season, many a hurricane season, you know, whether it be like hurricane, because we got hit by Hurricane Katrina first before I went to New Orleans. I remember that very well. And I also remember getting hit by Hurricane Wilma. So those were two really tough hurricanes that both myself and my wife had to deal with back in the day. Also, just living here in Tennessee, I've had to deal with tornado season. So wherever you live, you always have to deal with something. If it's not hurricanes and tornadoes, you're dealing with blizzards, or you're dealing with mudslides, or dealing with fires, or volcanoes, or earthquakes, or whatever. And it's tough. It's real tough. But I will say this, that if you thought it was hard before, it's going to get even harder on you financially, because this government, this United States government that we live in, is not coming up off the bucks to help you out. The Biden administration, they got money for everybody else. They got money for Ukrainians. They got money for Israelis. They even got money for the Palestinians. Like, when it's funny to me that, this whole conflict that's going on again, it's not like it doesn't happen all the time, but this recent conflict between, you know, Israelis and Palestinians, America is basically funding both sides. America is basically passing bucks to both sides. So they got money for that. They got money for illegal immigrants that come here to give them services and give them money and health care and everything else. They got money for everybody except for the American citizens who actually pay into the system, whether they want to or not. American citizens got to give money and, have money taken out of their paycheck, and we have no say in the matter when it comes to paying into this government. But when we actually need it, when we actually need some of the services, they're like, well, we can give you this $700, or we can give you this $750, we'll break you off a little bit. Something that's not even going, can't even buy groceries nowadays. Stuff that is, everything is so high between gas and groceries. That 750 is going to be gone in less than a day, right? Especially if you have a larger family. If you got more than 2 kids, that's your ass. 750 is not anything. That's not going to do anything at all, right? Now I think they're talking about giving some more when people basically told them, hey, you realize that that's not enough money, right? And it's funny because these people are so divorced from reality. They go to their little balls where they get to, get $1,000 plates and whatnot, and just sit around and eat and lie and, basically talk about how they're going to screw over the American public with their little business buddies, right? Everyone talks about how bad the freak off parties were with Puffy in the entertainment world. The freak off parties in the political world are way worse, 10 times worse, a million times worse. And on top of them freaking off in the political parties, they're going to freak you off when it comes to economic and social policies as well. Because they're not just in there oiled up and freaking each other. They're discussing how they're going to steal money from you and steal power from you and resources from you and leave you destitute and begging for a savior next time an election comes up, right? So In my opinion, if this world were just and if the American people had any sense, the American people as a whole would march down to Washington, grab every politician, and just throw them into like the Potomac or in a lake or a river or a landfill somewhere and just light it on fire. Because these people don't do anything, they're not really worth anything. All right. And I'm talking about both political parties, including Trump. Okay. For all you people that suck on Trump's nuts. I know there are a lot of you out there who just love Donald Trump and think he's a God sent and think he's going to fix everything. He's not. Okay, sad to say it. Trump is just another oligarch from the other side of things. He just has a different view of how to do things, and so are his cohorts, right? But he's still just as bad. And the Democrats and these neocons, these people are all scum, in my opinion, right? Because, like I said, they got money for everything else. They got money and they're well taken care of. They get into politics, they're taken care of. Their families taken care of. They get health benefits. They get to take time off. Doesn't matter what's going on in the country. The country could be falling apart. They make sure they get their vacation time. They make sure they close session and get to go on these fancy vacations. You ever notice that? It's always when like the country's falling apart. There's storms, there's floods, people are out of work. These fools go on vacation. Now they demand that you go to work or have to go to work 7 days a week. You have to struggle through 80 hours. You got to work double shifts and whatnot just to make ends meet. Not them. They're barely there. They're barely in Congress. They barely spend the time that they're supposed to. And all they do when they get there is play grab ass and argue, and it's dumb because the American people get so caught up in their BS that they start siding with one side or the other, as if they're both not screwing around up there and just making it worse for the American people, which that's all they really do. So it's interesting to me that the American people still have faith in this system and put so much stock in it when this system threw us overboard a long time ago. A long time ago. They don't give a damn about the people. But, once again, if you went through any of this stuff, any of these storms or whatever, God bless you. I hope God takes care of you because these politicians are definitely not going to. And they're never going to give you enough money to help take care of your family. I guess take what you can get, but I know it's not enough, right? And what the one thing I'll say that's interesting is, a lot of people always like to talk trash, or people on the political right always like to talk trash about uh, black people or the black community are extremely dependent on the government or on the federal government and the system. But I noticed that, a lot of these right wingers and people who vote Republican, they're always screaming for help from the federal government when things go wrong in their area. I find that very interesting. You know, these same people who vote Republican and claim that they don't need the federal government or we need to abolish the federal government, we need to get rid of the FBI, we need to get rid of welfare, get rid of Medicaid, all this stuff, right? They act like they don't care about that stuff or they don't need it. But as soon as a storm hits, as soon as something gets flooded, as soon as a road gets destroyed in their little rural area, as soon as their trailer park gets turned over by a storm, then all of a sudden they're begging the federal government for help, right? They're indignant towards the federal government before. Now all of a sudden they need the federal government's help because they're obvious their state government and their local government can't handle it. It's painfully obvious they can't handle it and don't want to and don't care to. You know, a lot of these Republican senators and governors and mayors, they talk so much trash about the federal government. They get money and they get kickbacks from the federal government, but they never allot it to the people. It never makes it to the people because they're putting it all in their back pocket, right? Or because they claim that they'll veto funds and don't want funds to get to the people because the federal government will tell them they have to legalize some social law or whatever that they don't want to be legalized. It's just a bunch of BS. They play these games with people's lives, and the only people who truly suffer for it are the people. So I want to tell a lot of you right wingers and conservatives and Republicans out there, you get so whipped up and get so hyper focused on black people and the issues that we have. You need to turn the mirror around and look at yourself and look at that trailer park and realize that these Republicans don't have your best interests at heart. You always talk about, well, you know, you black people always vote Democrat, and your neighborhoods look like trash. Well, what do your neighborhoods look like right now? Your neighborhood's looking pretty musty and dusty right now, and there's widespread infection because of the flood water and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So you need to maybe start evaluating yourself that these Republican politicians are lying to you and taking advantage of you. And they basically sell you they take advantage of your inner bigotry and your inner white supremacy and racism, tell you need to fight these people over here and you need to constantly attack and look down upon these black people over here. But when you get in trouble, they're nowhere to be found. They're not even trying to help you right now. They wouldn't care if all of you got washed away as long as you're there to vote Republican in November. That's all they care about. So, to a lot of you fools out there, you guys are just as much used and abused and manipulated as you say black people are. A lot of that is projection. You project a lot of your own faults onto black people. You're living just as dusty in the trailer park in these rural areas where there's just hardly any money, right? What little money you can scrape together with your selling meth and fentanyl and whatnot, that's not helping you, right? But like I said, you folks will get all in a tizzy every election season because you figure you got to get more than these Negroes out here, or black people are getting more than you, or you're made to think that they were getting more than you, and we're not getting anything either. We're definitely not. Okay? So, you folks can let me know how you feel about this in the comment section. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back with my foot on the devil's back.